What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So if you've been following me ever since the TikTok days, you probably know that I've been pretty critical of the Yzerplan dating back to like winter of 2023. I remember dropping a video of January of 2023 going over how I thought that they were going to eventually become a playoff team, but in the grand scheme of the Eastern Conference, I was not that moved by the Yzerplan, to which people said I was absolutely out of my mind. At that time, you could not criticize the great Steve Yzerman, who did build the Tampa Bay Lightning that would go on to win 2 Stanley Cups. But I started to just start to criticize it and continued to criticize it. And now it seems like 23 months later, a lot of people seem to be on my side, especially after a loss last night to Scott Laughton and the Philadelphia Flyers, where he outscored them single-handedly 4-1. But in a weird way, you would think that I would be victory lapping the fact that most people probably are very low, an all-time low for the Yzerplan, don't think that they're actually going to be contenders in the Eastern Conference. But maybe it's just the contrarian in me. But when looking at the Red Wings relative to the start of the season in the preseason to now, I'm honestly more bullish on the Yzerplan. I still don't think it's the greatest thing ever. I still don't think this is going to yield a dynasty, but I think people are far too critical on this team. So we're going to break it down why I think that there'd be optimism, honestly, for a Red Wings fan compared to October 1st now, why I think the overall long-term picture of this franchise honestly looks better. And up first, let's just get it out of the way. You cannot defend Yzerman on his free agency signings. Some of these are one of the worst of recent memory. Ben Chirot, Justin Hull, Andrew Kopp's deal looks like shit. JT Compher, Ville Husso is an absolute disaster. I just want to get that out of the way. His ability to trades outside of Alex DeBrincat, but that kind of fell into his lap. His trades as well as his free agency signings are kind of, you can't defend them. They're indefensible. I don't even know if that's a word. But yeah, they go without saying. And at this point, he 1,000% should fire Derek Lalonde. He has been a bad coach. I knew that Detroit was going to be a bad team this year, but this is just simply unacceptable. They're not this bad. I think that they're not this bad considering like they probably should be even worse because the goaltending has stepped up in a big way. But with getting that out of the way, right now the team is not that good. But if you watch my video at the end of September when I talked about the Yzerplan, I didn't give a shit about how this team performed, to kind of put it bluntly, considering the fact, again, most of their roster players and honestly guys in the top of their lineup are old as shit. We're going to run the clip right now from that video. I really don't care how the actual team performs next season in terms of if they stink overall record-wise or if they're really good. I really only care about 3 players in terms of the long-term effects of the Yzerplan, and that's Lucas Raymond proving that last year wasn't some 19% fluke shooting-wise. Seider needs to take that next step in terms of being a legit number 1 defenseman, especially offensively, on top of Simon Edvinsson actually being an impact second-pair guy next season. That's all I care about heading into next season, as well as their prospect pool. Danielson having a very good season wherever that's at. Trey Augustine being good at the college level. Kosa putting up a 917 in the AHL. This roster isn't the roster that's going to be there in 2 to 3 years. It's going to be massively different. And as you can see, I really only cared about this season how Lucas Raymond looked, if he solidified himself as one of the best young forwards in the entire NHL, if Moritz Seider in his first year of his mega deal proved to be a legit top pair, legit number 1 defenseman, and Simon Edvinsson had a good rookie season. Guess what happened? All 3 of those things, so I am not going to panic. Lucas Raymond playing better than last season. Maybe not goal scoring at the same rate, but he's looking like he could potentially be a point-per-game player on this bad of a Detroit Red Wings team. He is a future star, future probably top 35, maybe even top 30 player in the entire NHL. You go over to Simon Edvinsson. I was a little bit concerned about how he translate offensively. I knew he was going to be a very good defensive player, but he's been awesome offensively. 13 points in 28 games when you look at the underlying numbers. He's been amazing defensively. Offensively, perfectly fine again for a rookie. So those 2 have, without a doubt, hit it out of the park to start this season. Moritz Seider, the offensive leaps have not really come, but when you look at his underlying numbers this year compared to last year, he just defensively was not there. And granted, he did have some of the toughest defense. Like, they started him nonstop in the defensive zone against teams' best players. Like, his competition that you see kind of get measured was by far the highest in the NHL. This year, he is playing far better defensively, in part because he's playing with Simon Edvinsson. But yeah, the offense has maybe taken a little bit of a dip, but he's been very, very good defensively. So the three players, the three core players, the first round picks in 2019, 2020, and 2021 look well on their way to being top of the lineup, elite NHL players. I don't give a shit that JT Compher and Andrew Copp's deals are looking bad. Ben Sherratt, Justin Holl, they have 1 year left on their deal. Who gives a rat's ass about those deals, about those players in their late 20s, early 30s? They're going to be off the team in 2 to 3 years. Most of their contracts outside of Compher and Koff are off the books by 2026. It's about the core pieces, and it's also about the prospects. How are their prospects playing? Sebastian Cosa's amazing this year in the AHL. He has a 925 in 14 games. He won his one NHL game this season when he came in for Buffalo. How about Trey Augustine? The fact that this is their second best goalie prospect at this point is absurd. 12 games, a 934 save percentage. Let's go over to their other defenseman prospect. This is their number 3 U24 defenseman in the system. Axel Sandin Belika is almost point per game at the SHL level. He is looking absolutely awesome as that elite offensive defenseman behind Moritz Seider, a very underrated prospect that's going to be cracking my top 50, Dmitry Buchlinikov. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He was very good last year in the KHL at only 20 years old. This year, near point per game in the KHL. He was an overager, but as you can see, he had a September 6th birthday, so he was one of the youngest players if he got drafted in 2021, didn't get drafted, so he's not even that much of an overager. When you look at it, he's an overager by 9 days. He is looking very, very good, potentially coming over in a season or two. So I'm pretty bullish on the Detroit Red Wings. I think when looking at it, maybe the one problem is they don't have that true number 1 center in the system. I still don't fully believe in Marco Kasper, Nate Danielson, Brandsegg Nygaard. They're all playing okay. They're progressing okay in terms of being like solid middle 6 forwards. But guess what? Because they're so bad this season, they're probably going to have a shot at one of the top centers in this year's draft. Whether that's James Higgins, whether that's Michael Misov, maybe just bring in Porter Martone or Roger McQueen or Anton Frundell. It's kind of good. I'm in my podcast, I said it on Monday that it might be the best thing for this team to stink just one more year, especially when your young players are so good. Who cares if Patrick Kane, Tarasenko, Ben Sherratt, and Justin Holl are washed up? We kind of knew that. We kind of expected that. But right now, if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan, I think you kind of accept stinking for 1 year. They definitely need to get Derek Lalonde out of there for the development of some of their young guys, and I don't expect them. Maybe he plays up. Maybe you just keep him there so they tank for the rest of the year. But I think that if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan, it's unfortunate. They should be better. They should have more NHL-ready talent. I'll throw it up right now. In the 2019 and 2020 drafts, outside of hitting on his first-round picks, which, again, is what matters the most at the end of the day, he did miss kind of throughout. Outside of that, Albert Johansson is going to be the only guy that's kind of an NHL player, so you can criticize him for that. You can criticize him for the free agency, but when you look at the Yzerplan, if they add a Michael Misa, James Higgins, even a Porter Martone, even a Roger McQueen or Anton Frundell, and potentially get that franchise center that learns under Dylan Larkin and then eventually takes over as the number 1 center in like 4 to 5 years from now, I'm not massively panicking. Do I still like the New Jersey Devils' future more? Do I still like the Buffalo Sabres or even the Ottawa Senators because they have more NHL-proven young talent? Yes. But I don't think you can say the Yzerplan is some massive failure when, again, this guy inherited such a bad team in 2019 after 25, 30 years of contending at a high level. They had nothing for him. He had to nuclear strip it down, and right now his first 3 first-round picks are working out. Yes, I'm maybe not as high as the guys that he selected in terms of forwards from 2022 to 2024, but again, if you truly stink this year and get one of those franchise forwards, I think the Yzerplan's in a pretty good spot. I think people are being ridiculous to say that he should get fired right now. You can maybe say that he should be fired on the basis of his evaluations in terms of his free agency pickups, but a lot of free agency pickups are shit. It's late 20s, early 30s overpayments. He's got to just hope that some of these young guys continue to develop. They're set in terms of defense and goaltenders. Nobody in the NHL has a better U22, U23 defenseman and goalie setup than the Detroit Red Wings. I'm pretty confident in that and do research before that, but I'd be shocked if anybody has 2 elite goalie prospects and 3 young defensemen, 2 of which NHL proven. It's just going to come down to them potentially getting a franchise forward in this year's draft, which at this point, it's looking like they're going to be one of the worst teams in the entire NHL, like I kind of predicted. But yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Do you think the Yzerplan is in an okay spot. Again, I'm just saying that I'm more optimistic on it relative to September 1st, because I thought the worst thing that could happen for this team is if they had 88 points, 86 to 88 points, still were an average-ish team, below average team, ended up selecting 12th overall, especially in this draft where it falls off so stark after like the first 6 or 7 selections. They take, trying to think, William Moore or something like that, some guy with like a second line center ceiling, and they just continue to go on. And in 5-6 years, once Larkin's out of his prime, they were just stuck with Raymond and good defensemen, good goalies, but the forward core wasn't nearly good enough. Last year, they probably should have sucked more, although, again, you're not going to be mad that your team was so good last year, considering the fact that Raymond played so good, as well as Sider also as well. You're not getting mad the fact that you had 91 points last year, but last year, they probably should have stunk and picked up in the top 12 an elite prospect. It's looking like this year might be the final year of the rebuild. Rings fans aren't happy, and rightfully so. What has it been? 6 seasons of kind of sucking it up since he inherited the team, but it's kind of necessary, and I am more optimistic on the Yzerplan now than before the season. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I'll be seeing the next one.